In today's video, we are going to explore and discover the reality of luxury travel in Australia. We wanted to look specifically at how some of the most famous high-end resorts handle accessibility for disabled traveler. We've spent the time researching which properties make it easy for you to plan your trip, and which ones are still leaving people in the dark when it comes to clear access information. So let's get into it. Luxury travel in Australia looks incredible online. If you look at the websites, the views, the infinity pools, the private villas, it all looks like a dream world that you'd really want to explore and discover. And honestly, there is so much natural beauty in Australia to explore and discover. But if you're a disabled traveler or someone living with mobility needs, there's often another side to this story that doesn't show up in those glossy brochures or the high-end Instagram feeds. Because we have found that luxury and accessibility are not always the same thing. When we started to explore and discover luxury stays in Australia with accessibility in mind, we noticed a pattern very quickly. Some places make it easy to understand what to expect. They welcome you, they give you the facts, and other places they just don't. And that difference matters more than people might think. Because if you're trying to plan a trip, especially a luxury one, you're not just looking at how nice a place looks. You're trying to figure out something much more practical. Can I actually move around here comfortably? Can I get into the room without a struggle? Can I use the bathroom safely and with dignity? Can I actually enjoy the space the way it's meant to be enjoyed? We believe that when that information isn't clear, it makes it much harder for people to explore and discover these destinations with any kind of confidence. From what we found in our research into the Australian market, there are some properties that do a much better job of explaining accessibility properly. One that really stood out to us is O'Carolyn's Eco Resort in Port Stephens. And the reason it stood out isn't just because it says it's accessible, it's because it actually explains what that looks like. They talk about things like wide doorways, enough space to turn a wheelchair comfortably. They mention ramps that are actually designed to be used, and accessible bathrooms. They even highlight a heated pool with a hoist. Now that might sound like a small detail to someone who doesn't need it, but if you rely on those features, that information is everything. It's the difference between a holiday and a stressful experience. It's the difference between just staying somewhere and actually being able to relax and explore and discover the place properly. Another property we found is Pier 1 Sydney Harbour. What makes this one stand out is simply that the accessibility information is easy to find. It isn't buried at the bottom of a menu or hidden in a PDF, which means you can actually plan your trip with some peace of mind and then focus on enjoying the harbour and taking the time to explore and discover Sydney, its facilities. We also looked at Ibis World Square. Now, it might not be ultra-luxury in the traditional sense, but this is where our research gets interesting, because sometimes the real luxury is just simplicity and reliability. Clear access, level entry, practical design. That gives people the freedom to move around independently and explore and discover a city without constantly having to scan the floor for obstacles or stairs. That kind of experience, that freedom, matters just as much as a 5-star view. Now, we do have to talk about the other side of this, because there are some very high-end, very famous places in Australia. Lizard Island Resort, El Questro Homestead, Badara Island Resort, Mountain Mulligan Lodge. Look, these places are world famous. They look stunning, and to be fair to them, we aren't saying they aren't accessible. What we are saying is this: when we tried to explore and discover the accessibility details for these spots, it just wasn't clear. And for a disabled traveler, that lack of clarity creates a massive amount of stress. Because if you can't find the information easily, you're left with so many questions. Are there steps to the restaurant? Is there a lift to the pool? How far do I have to travel over rough ground to get to my villa? What is the bathroom layout actually like? And suddenly, instead of feeling excited to explore and discover somewhere new, you're stuck in research limbo. And that can be really frustrating, because in 2026 and beyond, this kind of information should be the gold standard. It shouldn't be a secret. Honestly, that's the bigger point we want to make here. If you want people to truly explore and discover what you offer as a luxury destination, then the information has to be there for everyone. It has to be clear. It has to be honest. Because real luxury isn't just about the fancy soaps or the view. It's about how the place works for a human being. It's about whether a person can arrive, settle in, and actually enjoy their surroundings without having to worry about how they are going to get from point A to point B. It's about comfort, independence, and feeling like you actually belong in that space. That is what allows people to properly explore and discover a destination, not just to look at it, but to truly experience it. So if you're planning your next luxury trip to Australia, we really suggest taking a little extra time to look for those specifics. Look beyond the lifestyle photos. Look for the practical, important information. Because the more clarity you have before you go, the easier it is to relax and actually do what you set out to do, which is to explore and discover. Because in the end, the best kind of travel experience is the one where nothing, absolutely nothing, is holding you back. And that is what real luxury should be. And thanks for watching Explore and Discover. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to get more invaluable advice.